to settle in. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Board of Supervisors meeting on June 18th. This morning, I want to take a minute and reflect on, we lost a valued member of our San Bernardino County team. Art Bliss passed away on Saturday suddenly, and we're all quite heartbroken of our loss. And we would like to remain standing for a moment in prayer and condolences to his family and remembrance to him and his service to our county. Can we all rise for the pledge led by Supervisor Rivas?
Ready, salute.
Thank you. Can I have a motion for a certificate of posting?
So moved.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, hearing none. At this time, we would like to introduce Annie Tobias. She has the honor and privilege of being Miss San Bernardino Rodeo Queen for 2013 at the Horse Show Association. That's coming up on June 28th and 30th at Bellotto Park. And Ms. Tobias, congratulations on your election to be in that high honor.
Good morning. My name is Kelly Mancino, and I'm Miss San Bernardino Rodeo 2012.
And I'm Annie Tobias, and I am the 2013 Miss San Bernardino Rodeo. And we are here to make sure everyone knows what's going on with the show and to invite everyone to come out and see a great week of performances.
So to kick off the rodeo events, we're going to have the downtown parade, which is next Thursday at 6:15.
And Friday morning, the show starts at 8 a.m. Eliminations will be held out on the track at Bellotto Park, and those will be for stock horse classes as well as other classes that are really large. And then Friday evening at 5 o'clock in the vendor tent, there's the wine and cheese tasting, which is a really good opportunity to go mingle, taste some great wines, and see a really cool Western trade show. And then the show starts at 7 o'clock.
On Saturday, we're going to start at 1:30. The family barbecue follows the rodeo, and this is an event where everyone in the community is invited to come out and participate in a great barbecue and enjoy some yummy food.
And Sunday, the final day of the show, we have more eliminations in the morning on the track for the last two stock horse classes, and the show starts at 1:30.
And this year marks the 80th annual Saddle Horse Show and Rodeo, and we'd really love to see all of you come out and enjoy this spectacular event. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. The Saddle Horse Show is one of the San Bernardino County's finest long-standing traditions, and we hope everybody does go out and support everything that's going on out there. Thank you. We'll move on to a Parks and Rec Commission designation. Our strongest advocate on the Board of Supervisors has a proclamation to read out.
Okay, and I move, Mr. Chair, to adopt or present this proclamation.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none. Supervisor Barrios.
Thank you. And there's my good friend Debbie, once again. And this is my passion, and I know that it is yours as well. So I want to present you with this proclamation, and I'm just going to read one of the paragraphs. Whereas residents value recreation as it provides positive alternatives for children and youth to reduce crime and mischief, especially during non-school hours. It promotes the arts, it increases social connections, aids in therapy, and promotes lifelong learning. So Debbie, on behalf of the Board of Supervisors, I would like to present this to you and declare July as Parks Make Life Better Month.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Good morning. Thank you, Supervisor Barrios. Good morning, Mr. Chair and members of the board. On behalf of the San Benito County Parks and Recreation Commission, I'd like to thank you very much for all of your support over the years, as well as within the community, and wanting to promote healthy lifestyles to our community. July is National Parks and Recreation Month, and acknowledging that is a great feat for our commission to be able to have activities that families can go out and recreate. The whole month of July will start with a lot of events. However, we're going to kick that off with one event that's actually going to be tomorrow. It's Kids in the Park Day. Last year, over 600 children participated in Kids in the Park at Dunn Park. The hours are between 10 to 2. They came by and learned about all of the different parks that are within San Benito County. City parks, national parks, state parks, state vehicular parks. So it was just a great, as well as our historic parks. Our landscapes in California are so rich in natural and cultural history as well as landscapes. And so here in San Benito County, we're so proud that we're able to have that resonate right here. And we hope and encourage that all families participate, coming out to starting with the Kids in the Park. And then each weekend, there will be something going on within the community that there'll be activities for families to go and visit and just recreate and bring them together and promote that healthy lifestyle. So again, I want to thank you on behalf of the San Benito County Parks and Recreation Commission. It's an honor to be able to have this. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to public comment. And please keep your comments to 3 minutes. We have a pretty tight schedule for today. And I'm going to try to keep everybody to 3 minutes. So do we have anybody that would like to address the board on items not on the agenda today?
First speaker is Marty Richmond.
Good morning. Marty Richmond from Hollister. Mr. Chairman, I don't know if in May you saw a newspaper article in the national news that was pretty shocking. For the first time on record, the U.S. Census has shown a decline in the rural population of the United States. For as long as the census has been taken, all those decades, never before has there been a decline in the rural population of the United States. For the first time ever, there was a small decline. So if there was a small decline in the rural population, you know there was a large decline in the percentage of people who live in the rural areas, because the population in general is growing pretty quickly. That is one of the reasons we're having our difficulties financially, in my opinion, is that we are, I sit through these meetings, you see me here all the time. We are constantly bombarded with these unfunded mandates. We are constantly bombarded with enormously expensive requirements over at the city. They were talking about getting the emergency generator checked at the fire department was, under the new carb rules, was $6,000. Getting a carb modification on one of the trucks was $12,000. The big trucks, as everybody here knows, are $25,000. With a dwindling population, with the cities and the richer counties having all the access and all the leverage in Sacramento, we're being left in the dust. We have to come up with a strategy, a long-term strategy, in my opinion, that will allow the county to thrive, will allow its residents to thrive, and everybody to have a better life here, so we don't all have to move to Los Angeles. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Next speaker.
Marvin Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, board members. I will stop after 3 minutes. I'll be back in a couple of weeks to finish this up. Remember where you were on July 4th, 1976? That's when we celebrated the Declaration of Independence, throwing off the yoke of a tyrannical government. My wife and I and our 3 pre-teenage children are in downtown Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. There were a lot of people there. A good time was had by all. The most impression I had was there was a cop on every corner, and there were no lines at the potty stops, even the women. Same year, 1976, the United Nations came out with their Habitat 1. Kind of slipped by, I wasn't paying that much attention to it. Checking on some of the wording in Habitat 1, introduction to one of their agenda items. Land cannot be treated as an ordinary asset controlled by individuals. Goes on to say such private ownership of land contributes to social injustice. You've probably heard the social justice, social injustice buzzwords. But in 1976, while we were celebrating individual freedom, personal property rights, and such as that, the United Nations came out with, you shouldn't have them. Fast forwarding to 1992. Rio de Janeiro, the United Nations came out with their agenda for the 21st century, more commonly known as Agenda 21. We said Council of Government meeting several months ago, and I was kind of surprised when one of the members of the board of the Council of Government had never heard of Agenda 21. Wow. It was President George Herbert Walker Bush signed us up for it with the SALT Treaty, you know, a presidential, what do they call them? Whatever they are. And that it was President Clinton just a year or two later formed the President's Council on Sustainable Development, flowing right on down to California. California has SB 375 that Governor Schwarzenegger signed in 2008. The Sustainable Communities and Climate Protection Act of 2008. Where are we going? Sustainable development. It's a big buzzword. If you wade through this thing, I've been through a good bit of it, it has a theme, sub-theme, if you will, of a quality of output, a quality of results, not a quality of opportunity. They do not stress that you have equal opportunities. They stress that you need equal results worldwide. See you in 2 weeks.
Okay, thank you. We'll hear the rest of the story. Next speaker.
Robert Scholes.
Robert Scholes from Aromas. I've attended board meetings in 5 counties and observed how the meetings were conducted using Robert's Rules of Orders. When I started attending the meetings in San Benito County, I was surprised to see verbal interaction between public speakers and members of the board. Initially, I thought this was a good idea as it allowed for the answering of any questions the board might have in a timely manner. However, I no longer see this verbal communication as being a valuable tool, as public speakers have been bullied and berated during interactions with the board. The public is not allowed to verbally attack individual members of the board in their comments. Rather, they must address the board as a whole. The same should hold true when the supervisors are making their comments. However, as has been exhibited in the past, this is not true in San Benito County. Public speakers have been badgered for comments that are contrary to board members' views. The public should feel free to address issues with the board without fear of being verbally assaulted because of their views. If the public does not feel free to express their views, they will not do so, and we will all lose valuable insight into how our fellow citizens are thinking. At the last public hearing of the Community Action Plan, we had 3 members of the public attend the hearing. A really bad turnout as far as I'm concerned. They were astounded to find we actually wanted their input, as they felt their ideas were not appreciated because, and this is a quote, they, meaning you, are going to do what they want anyway. So I ask you, the board, is this what you want? If not, then Robert's Rules of Orders need to be enforced. Public speakers should be reminded of the rules and the expectations of civility if they are out of line. Members of the board should be held to the same standard, and if there are continued violations by a board member, that member should be publicly censured. If you decide to continue with the status quo, it will reflect poorly on the individual board member, the board as a whole, and the county of San Benito. Most of us attending these meetings, whether private citizens or employees of the county, are adults, and as such, deserve to be treated with dignity and respect. Thank you.
Thank you, Robert. Next speaker? Okay. I see one step forward. Mr. Ingram.
Sorry, I didn't want to interrupt. Hi. Chairman, Tello, Board of Supervisors. I'm here today. I've been talking with other ranchers, and this is in reference to the county fire contract. I've been told, and I was under the impression that CAL FIRE would still respond to state responsibility areas in the county because that's what the responsibility is. However, several ranchers here in this county believe that they will no longer respond to state responsibility area fires. I'd like to know what it really is so we can get this mistake or rumor clear.
You're right. And I think that's very relevant. This week, Hollister is to take over the local response area as far as fire protection, and that means structures, accidents, medical aids, even in the state response area. But we're going to work with CAL FIRE is still going to respond to the state response area. They're going to man their stations during fire season, which is right now, and they're going to continue with the level of service that they have had in the past throughout our whole county. The local response area, we're going to work with Hollister. They're going to respond, and we'll have a higher level of service. We'll have a couple more fire stations and additional staffing in the existing Hollister stations as well. So the level of service is going to be greatly enhanced, and we're continuing our working relationship with CAL FIRE in the state response area, and I think it's going to be a higher level of fire response and service to protection to our citizens.
Thank you. Also, I would like to ask if the media is here, if they would cover this story so this rumor can be put to rest so people really know what the responsibility of the county and CAL FIRE is. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Any other speakers? Okay, we'll move on.
Chair, Mr. Chair, before we
Supervisor
move on,
Munzer?
perhaps we can have our CAO maybe on the July 23rd meeting, have the fire chief come and report out on the transition and the changeover, and we can address some of those things on an agenda item.
I think that's a good suggestion.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and put that on the agenda for the.
Okay, great. We'll have that on the 23rd of July. We'll move on to department head announcements.
I don't have any announcements, and I haven't been notified of any announcements, so I believe
Okay.
there's no announcements for today.
All right. We'll continue to move on to board announcements. Any board members have any announcements? Supervisor Barrios?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First of all, I want to once again extend my condolences to the family of Art Bliss. We do have heavy hearts because of his loss and of their loss, so I want to make sure that they know that we are here to support them. Secondly, I want to congratulate families who had graduates this year. I know that I personally attended 5 graduations, 2 college, 1 8th grade, 2 high school, and it's just very exciting times, and it's always nice to be able to connect with families and to see that our leaders of tomorrow are truly wonderful kids, And I think that has to do with parents, grandparents, family, just their entire, what they're surrounded by. And so anyway, I want to extend congratulations to families on their children who graduated this year. And the last thing is that I do once again want to invite everybody to Kids at the Park. It is tomorrow. If I don't have to be here for budget hearings, I will be the MC for that at 10 o'clock at Dunn Park. It's a great time for families to bring their children to learn about safety, educate the children on healthy eating, and just the idea of being out in the sunshine and enjoying and getting some social time with other children and families. So I would like to invite you to that tomorrow, Dunn Park, 10 to 2. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Supervisor De La Cruz.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Excuse me, I attended the Hollister City Council meeting yesterday, and the City Council with Victor Gomez, Arnable, Ray Friend, and Pauline voted to stop and terminate all relationships in terms of consolidation, contracts, agreements, cost-saving measures with the Hollister Police and the Sheriff Department. It was a 3-2 vote. It was a strong message that was sent to the Board of Supervisors, and they looked at me because I was out in the audience. And after the meeting, I talked to every single City Council member. I told them, thank you for your position. I would definitely relay this back to the Board of Supervisors, and we got your message. Thank you for your thank you for your leadership. And I also like to thank both our Mayor Ignacio Velasquez and Robbie Scutini for putting in an effort to moving forward on cost measures. And I think it's a clear indication that the City of Hollister and the county might be in a short environment of working together for cost measuring measures. And I think some of the points that the City Council said yesterday was that they have a city manager they want to fill out first. They have an attorney they want to fill out first. And so they like to concentrate all their time on that versus trying to find other cost measures. So I told them I'll relay the information over to my fellow supervisors, and I got the signal. I understand where my vote's going to go from now on is we're going to stop talking with them. Totally. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, sure. Okay. All right. Thank you, Supervisor De La Cruz. We'll move on to the consent agenda. I've been requested by the public to pull item 10, and Supervisor Barrios is pulling item 11. Is there any other items that the public would be interested in pulling off the consent? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion for the balance of the consent agenda.
Mr. Chair, I'll move approval of the remainder of the consent agenda.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none. We'll move on to item 10, and this is the item of our oil ordinance, which I know has a lot of interest in the public. A lot of people are here to, for that, and reason why it was on the consent agenda is we've had a number of public hearings on this and a lot of input, and at this point in the process, the ordinance is a kind of a vote for to pass it or a vote not to pass it, and we're not going to change it anymore. So, but we're interested in hearing from you, of course, and hopefully, especially if it's new information, we sure appreciate that. But anyhow, please limit your comments to 3 minutes. And do we have any speaker cards?
We do. First speaker is Natasha Wiss.
Yes, good morning. I'm Natasha Wiss. I live in the county. And I'm speaking to this amendment, this regulation. And it's up to the public and the Board of Supervisors to decide. But last week I attended a citizens meeting to discuss the impact of gas well fracking in this county and the ordinance amending Chapter 1921 of the San Benito County Code referring to the oil and gas wells. And this is the controversy that's been going on for the last few weeks. And during this discussion with my fellow citizens, varying points of view were offered, and I listened carefully to the argument of one member who said a watered-down version of the original bond for drillers was better than none at all. And I know there are quite a few people that hold this opinion, that it's better to have a kind of watered-down version than nothing at all. And I've been thinking about this point of view, and I asked myself, is something better than nothing? Especially when it concerns the fate of life on Earth. Why not start with small baby steps and then hope to gather momentum for true ecological justice and energy reform? I've lived long enough to see the results of deflecting the people's attention from serious problems by offering a sugar-coated placebo in place of real medical intervention. And sometimes this works, because if the problem is all in our heads, in other words, not really real, the placebo works. But this problem is real. The passage of this ordinance as amended today will give some of us the illusion of accomplishment, the illusion of success in achieving some progress towards a livable planet. Now, when we stand up in court, we are asked to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. We are presently, in my opinion, in the court of no more chances. Let us tell the truth to all who will listen. Treating the disease when we know the cause is not honest, is not truthful. James Hansen, who's the former director of NASA's Goddard Institute for Space Studies and the most respected climatologist living today, tells us the truth, and I quote from a recent thing he wrote. This is what he says: the irrefutable scientific conclusion is that we cannot burn all the fossil fuels without handing our children, grandchildren, and future generations a situation that is out of their control, with enormous consequences for the well-being and for the very existence of many of the other species on our planet. We must leave most of the remaining fossil fuels in the ground. We must leave most of the remaining fossil fuels in the ground. That's the bottom line, folks.
Okay, thank you.
Opinion. Thank you.
Thank you.
Larry Rabici? Rabicki.
Good morning to the board. My name is Larry Rebecki, and I've lived in San Miguel County for, well, how many years? I should do the math. Since 1975. I guess that's 38 years. And I've raised my family here. And I come with two things in mind. The first thing, I'd like to commend the board and those of the Aromas group, the ACE group. I think they put a lot of time and effort into this ordinance. We don't all necessarily have to agree with it. I'm sure there are some parts of it that will probably have to be adjusted as we go along. I live in Mr. Bothalo's district, and I also have property in Hernandez Valley, which is in Mr. Munzer's district. So my interest extends throughout the county. I think regardless of what district you're in, I think we're all in for the county, for the benefit of the county in general. We shouldn't be drawing lines when it comes to the welfare, the interest of the county. We're all in the same pot. Many years ago, I lived in Colombia. I was a Peace Corps volunteer, and I worked as an agricultural extensionist. And the Colombians had a saying that, a dicho, estamos en la misma olla, and it basically says that we're in the same pot. What affects one person in the pot affects everybody in the pot. And I think we're in one county, and I think we have to consider Mr. Munzer has people that have special interests in his district. Mr. Bothal, and it's true of all the people here, their districts have special interest. I would like to acknowledge, though, that the effort made by ACE, the group interest in Aromas, and the board members, especially Mr. Munzer and Mr. Bothalo, I'd like to commend them. I don't necessarily agree with everything, but I commend you for your efforts. My father was in politics, and I know politics. I know you're damned if you do and damned if you don't. And you guys, these people up here have been working under restricted budgets, and it's not fun. It's not fun. And but the other thing that I'd like to call attention to, a lot of attention has been directed towards water contamination in the fracking process. I think we're really missing the boat when we don't consider earthquakes. We have a fault running right through the town, the Calaveras Fault. We have another major fault, well known throughout the world, the San Andreas Fault running through San Juan. These faults run throughout the county. And right here, probably the new building built here, the county building across the street, had to be retrofitted. They had to do all kind of seismic tests before they were able to construct that building. And here we are, we're going to be fracking Mother Earth, and we're in a very, very, well, I'll come back because I have some more to say too.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thank you.
I didn't get into the earthquake thing as much, but I do commend you for your efforts.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Andy Hacia Colon.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the Board of Supervisors. My name is Andy Shah Coron. I live on Ricardo Drive off of Cole Road, near all the big construction. I am a retired teacher of biology, chemistry, math, social studies, and health. And I was a highest honors graduate in science from the University of California. I'm speaking not in favor of moving forward on these regulations. I believe that you're better off holding back. More and more people are engaging themselves in this issue on a national level, on a state level, and on a local level, because more and more people are becoming aware of the tremendous risks associated with fracking. I spoke to the director of the film Gasland in person, and I asked him about fracking and safe fracking, and he said that's an oxymoron, a contradiction in terms. Examples of that would be humane slavery, gentle rape, that essentially you cannot frack safely. What that means is that these systems fail. Pennsylvania, Texas, Oklahoma have strong fracking regulations, and they've had their waters destroyed in many, many places. Huge amounts of lawsuits, ranching businesses shut down, farming businesses shut down, and people drinking bottled water, which, by the way, costs more than gasoline per volume. So this system of moving forward on this is endangering a resource that we desperately need in California for a resource that we cannot afford to use for the sake of our grandchildren and children. It's incompatible with the idea of building our county forward toward being a place of good farming, good ranching, healthy communities, tourism. We now have a national park. All these things are incompatible with moving forward with fracking. We have to make choices about what the future of this county is. And unlike one of our early speakers who talked about this idea of absolute property rights, we don't have absolute property rights. If I decide that I want to release toxic chemicals down the street in front of my house and that run onto my neighbor's property, I don't get to do that. If I want to burn so that my neighbors are breathing all those things, I don't get to do that either. But there's this idea that somehow, because this resource should be secured now, we should go ahead with this. I think that you should step back, give people the opportunity to have more input in this. I know you put good work into it, but I think there's more to be considered. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Samuel Ramos.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm just going to try to make two small points. And one of the things that I found out is that a lot of people are not aware of in our county. You know, I've talked to my neighbor, and I was one of them that didn't know much, you know, but I wanted to talk about water and also the trucks, the fracking trucks, and to kind of really look at what we're talking about, because you know, I found out that an Olympic pool takes about 660,000 gallons of water, and these wells will take from 2.5 million gallons to 7.8 million gallons of water, which means like 4 Olympic pools of water to 11, at least 11 and a half. That's a lot of water. So we can kind of have an idea. And the other point is like the trucks, the fracking trucks are like 40 tons. They weigh 40 tons. So in our roads, I don't know, it's hard, and they've been known to be very destructive. And a bus, for example, weighs from 11 to 14 tons, but now you're talking about 40 tons. That's a lot of weight. And last time I told you about Odessa and Hobbs, New Mexico, you know, and when I'm there, I feel like I'm in Macondo. The Macondo of Gabriel Garcia Marquez, the Nobel Prize with 100 Years of Solitude. And that's magical realism in a very, very bad way. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your time.
Victoria Montoya.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Victoria, and I live in Hollister. I, too, with the rest of the group here, is against fracking. And I have not done my research, but I also think I'm one of those ignorant people that need to be educated. And so I think that I just would like to have somebody to be proud of standing for what is good for the county. So I will just hope that you guys make a decision and not let this happen in San Benito County, so I can always brag, well, it may be backwards, but it's still doing the right thing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Maureen Kane.
Morning, members of the board. I'm Maureen Kane. I'm from Aromas Cares for Our Environment, and I want to thank you for all the work you've done. Thank you for staff who've done so much work on this ordinance. My passion in this started because my day job is with water and water safety. My favorite T-shirt I saw on a little boy this week was "Save Water, Stay Dirty." So, I was brought into this on the water issue. I want to point out that the ordinance that you guys will be voting on is not just about fracking. It is about updating the ordinance that is right now in place. And I would like to hand this to the board at the end of my talk, but it's a comparison of what the current law is and what the new ordinance would propose. And I'll just quickly say, in the old ordinance, there was no disclosure of chemicals, there's no spill control plan, no removal of equipment, no water testing, no notice to interested property owners, no protection of the environment, no criminal penalties, no, it goes on, that there was nothing. It cost $100 to get a permit right now. And with this new ordinance, it puts into place so much more that will protect the citizens of our area. And I appreciate everything that you have done. I would also like, if this is okay with you, to ask the members of Aromas Cares for Our Environment if they could stand right now, just to show you the members who are interested in this ordinance passing. And thank you very much for your work on this. And here's the comparison, if you wouldn't mind passing that to the members. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I have no other speakers.
Okay. We have one more speaker anyway.
I'm Ed Mitchell. You've seen me here a number of times, and I'm from your sister county, and I wanted to commend you. because of your actions. You're actually doing something that hasn't been done in many counties before. And each one of you have created an ordinance that has many good things in it. And I'm hoping to be able to use that with other ACE members that are in Monterey and take it to the Board of Supervisors, Simone Salinas, and take the good components of it and try to talk them into absorbing it and follow the leadership you've demonstrated here. I believe there is a weakness in one area that I hope that you will reconsider downstream, or other boards will consider downstream, because it's in regards to your definition of the facilities. I'm a certified Defense Department acquisition manager, and I'm used to reading contracts for what they constrain a person to do, require them to do, or allow them to do. And when I look at the facilities definition, once you do your initial testing and decide as an oil company that they will go into fracking operations, they will do like 100 facilities times 6 wells, or 600 wells. And if I read the wording, I think there's an interpretation of it that the only coverage that you will have for your budget should a problem pop up is $100,000. Now, yes, there is a requirement for them to insure their wells, but I think you will find that with the type of problems that you'll have, that is woefully underfunding, and it's putting the public at risk of being able to adequately service any problems that's come up. Other than that, I think you've done a good job. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We have Mr. Richmond.
I did not say Maggie. I was just too lazy to get up and put in my yellow card. So I didn't hold it just to be last. I hope somebody comes behind me. Marty Richmond from Hollister. First of all, almost all the difficult decisions you make here are matters of competing interests. That's truth, and people have to recognize that. Every time we go on the road, when we drive somewhere, it's a competing interest. If we commute to Silicon Valley to work, that's a competing interest with staying home. I think you've done a pretty good job. There's some things in here I like. There's some things in here I don't like. I like the fact that we're going to monitor the water. I think that's essential. I do think we're a little underinsured. If I was writing it, I would change a couple of things. But I think as far as competing interests, you've done well. Since there are so many competing interests, yesterday we were arguing at the City Council about the police department. And when you argue about the police department says if you take one guy off the street, there's going to be murder everywhere. It's competing interests. You can't afford to have 10,000 policemen. You can't afford to have no policemen. One of the problems we have with our competing interests in the current world is the only way you can get what you want is to forecast Armageddon if you don't get what you want. So therefore, everybody says, this is going to be the end of the world if you don't do exactly what I say. I don't think so. I mean, I believe in climate change because I know there was an ice age where there was 3 miles of ice over New York City at one time. Perhaps a little warmer climate, we won't get the next ice age because there's another one coming. I don't know what the futures hold. I don't believe in being reckless, but neither do I believe in losing every opportunity to fear. So I think you've got a reasonable, ordinance. I would have written it a little different, but no one elected me to do so. So thank you for your time that you put in on it.
Okay. Thank you. Anyone else would like to address the board on the revised oil ordinance? If not, I'll close the public comment period and bring it back to the board. And is there any comments from my fellow board members? And I just want to state that through a lot of hard work, is this ordinance perfect? By far, it probably isn't. But we worked hard on it to try to have it. But what we do have is a better ordinance that protects our natural resources, our quality of life, and that came through a lot of hard work from the public, with our staff, and Supervisor Munzer and myself put a lot of time in this, and I think it's certainly a huge improvement. I wish the state of California would look at some of the provisions that we've implemented into our local ordinance and take a step forward in reassuring the public that the oil industry is doing things the right way and taking into account that they're protecting the citizens of this state. But did best we can with this, and right now it's ready for a vote, and I'll entertain a motion from the Board of Supervisors on the consent agenda item.
Mr. Chair, I move to adopt ordinance number
918.
918, amending Chapter 19.21, Oil and Gas Wells of Title 19 of the San Bernardino County Code.
Second?
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Oppose?
Mr. Chair, excuse me. Supervisor Munzer, would you finish the recommendation? There's a second part of it to direct staff that fees for the conditional use permit shouldn't be waived without the Board of Supervisors' approval. Do you see that in your recommendation?
No.
No. Okay, so would you repeat that, and
I'll read the whole recommendation. Adopt ordinance number, what was? 918, amending Chapter 19.21, Oil and Gas Wells of Title 19 of the San Benito County Code, and 2, direct staff that fees for a conditional use permit related to oil and gas shall not be waived or deferred without prior approval of the Board of Supervisors.
Okay, that is my motion.
Okay,
And I second that with the addition.
all right. All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Oppose? Hearing none, 5-0 passes. Thank you. Oop. Thank you. That's great. We ought to take a picture of that and hang it up here. We don't get that very often. We'll move on to item 11, Supervisor Barrios.
Yeah, the only reason I pulled that, Mr. Chair, is that I always want to recognize folks that invest in the county. And there was a $300 donation. I didn't know if there's anybody here from probation. Oh, there he is. Our chief is here.
Right.
And let me go to the right page. We'll wait, Mr. Chair, we'll wait a minute for the floor to clear.
Who's that?
So anyway, Mr. Chair, thank you so much. Whether it's a dollar or $3,000, it doesn't matter. People are donating to the county for a good cause. And this went to the probation department. I don't know who donated. It may have been anonymous.
Mr. Frank Ledesma.
Mr. Ledesma. So I just wanted to say thank you.
Yes.
It didn't state who donated it, but I want to say thank you. And I would like to recommend that the board, that our chair sign a letter of thank you to this person,
Absolutely.
Mr. Ledesma, and I know it's going to be put to good use. So just wanted to make sure that it was recognized. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Barrios. These programs are a benefit to the county. We developed the Abuelos program that usually goes in. We usually accept these donations for that program, but this may go into other areas, so we just wanted to make the board aware of this donation, and it will go towards our juvenile, our youth. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much,
Thank you,
Chief.
Mr. Chair.
And yes, it's important to express our gratitude. With that, we'll move on to...
I'd like to make a motion.
Oh, yes, yes.
Unless there's public comment.
Oh, yes. Can we have public comment? If not, we'll bring it back for a vote.
Okay, I would like to make a vote that we authorize the Chief Probation Officer to accept a $300 donation on behalf of the San Benito County Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Commission for future juvenile programs and events.
Second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none. I don't know what I was thinking about.
It's okay. You got support here.
Yeah. All right, now we'll move on to our public hearing. Health and Human Services, CAO Espinosa, introduce the item.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, this particular item is number 16 on our agenda. This is going to be presented to us by Maria Corona. She's our interim director of Health and Human Services, and it's to receive comments on the 14-15 Community Action Plan, adopting resolution approving 14-15 Community Service Block Grant Community Action Plan, and authorize the interim Director of Health and Human Services to execute grant agreements, amendments, and other documents related to the CSBG grant. Maria?
Good morning, board members and members of the community. This is brought to you upon today to hold a public hearing, as indicated by Mr. Reyes Espinosa, and I'm going to have Enrique Arriola speak to this item on the agenda. Since he has all the information, we'll be able to answer any of your questions.
Good morning, members of the board and the public. My name is Enrique Arriola. I'm Deputy Director for Community Services and Workforce Development under Health and Human Services Agency. The purpose of this public hearing is to seek input into the draft Community Action Plan, which outlines the proposed services to be made available to low-income households in our community. Community Service Block Grant is a federal block grant that is administered by the State Department of Community Services and Development, CSD, is allocated to each county's designated community action agency through a formula allocation process. Community Services and Workforce Development is the designated community action agency for our county. The vision of our community action agency is to reduce the incidence of poverty in the community by increasing individual self-sufficiency and strengthening support systems. As San Benito County does not meet the designated population threshold, it receives a minimum allocation of $245,888. CSBG funds are used primarily to support grants for programs that come with insufficient or no funding for staffing and typically overhead costs, such as rent, utilities, and other operating costs. CSBG funds are federal pass-through dollars through the state. Each community action agency must submit a plan that describes how the funds will be used for the upcoming 2 years. And what we use to justify the needs and the programs that we provide, we normally, the Community Action Board undergoes through a survey in our community, and I just want to go over the top 5 from our last survey. Approximately 600 residents completed the survey. The need for jobs was ranked as number 1 need, and this past year, through funds received from CDBG, we did address that and allocated some funds for that. Second need identified was gang issues. Third is general education. Fourth, youth activities, before and after school activities. And number 5, need for food support in our community to our low-income people. And there's 16 others, actually 11 others, total of 16. Through these funds and other funds received, our department has been very successful in providing safety net services for low-income residents. These services include utility assistance in the form of electricity, gas, garbage, and water, rental assistance to prevent eviction, emergency winter shelter for homeless families, transportation assistance, professional attire for job search purposes, and daycare assistance. In addition, we have formed different partnerships in our community with nonprofit agencies, including the Food Bank, the Homeless Coalition, Imea Sounds, Friends of the Library, YMCA, Community Service Development Corporation, and also with Family Resource Center with our county. There is a sign-in sheet by the back door. We would appreciate the public's support by signing the document that will be submitted with the Community Action Plan. So at this point, if there's any feedback.
Mr. Chair, I do have a comment. As I read through this, Enrique, it's unbelievable the amount of work that goes on to put this together. And I know that we will use this as best we can because we do have a lot of families in need in San Benito County. But I want to thank the people that actually invested in this document, because it was very, it was comprehensive. It included a lot of things, a lot of studies, and questions and surveying, whatever went into it. I know was very, there was a lot of time invested. So I want to thank you and commend you for the work that was done.
Thank you. Along those lines, the Community Action Board had a big say. The planning process started months ago.
Yes.
We held our first public hearing. Staff has done an incredible job also with supporting this.
Well, give them our
Thank you.
our thank you, because I do know that there was a lot of work that went into this to make it happen. So thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
You're very welcome. Any other comments or questions from the board? At this time, I'll open up the public hearing and recognize any speakers for the public hearing. If not, we'll close the public hearing and bring it back to the board for a motion on the resolution.
Can I say something real quick?
Oh, sure.
We left, I have a plan in the back. That we also have a plan in the office. This is due in about a week and a half or 2 weeks. If there's any public that would like to view the plan or provide input, feedback, they still have the opportunity to do so at our office, 1111 San Felipe Road, Suite 108 here in Hollister. Any feedback received, we would include it as part of the plan.
Good. Thank you for making that point.
I will make a motion at this time, Mr. Chair, adopt resolution number 2013-47, approving the 2014-2015 Community Services Block Grant Community Action Plan and authorizing the Director of HHSA to execute grant agreements, amendments, and other documents related to the CSBG with the State of California.
I have a motion. I have a
Second.
Second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Hearing none. Thank you, Enrique.
Thank you.
Move on to item 17.
Thank you, Mr.
Dale.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, as mentioned yesterday at our budget hearings, this item was going to be brought to your board today. It's with regards to the county service areas that we have, numbers 16, 21, 22, 23, 24, 28, 31, 34, 35, 42, 46, 47, 48, 50, 51, and 53, and 54 on proposed fiscal year 13-14 to be collected on the tax roll, and requesting adopt a resolution imposing a property-related fee and conforming fee report, fee schedule, and fee providing for levy of the fiscal year 13-14 property-related fees and making certain related findings. So we have our CASA individual. I'm sorry, forgot your name, but what was it?
Lynette.
Lynette. Thank you, Lynette, to give the presentation.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. You have before you the fee report, and this is only for those CSAs that have a fee that was established by the Prop 218 process. And so the preparation of this report is mandated by Proposition 218. So it just goes into detail. The first part provides a list of those CSAs, a background of the Prop 218 process. Section 2 discusses the description of the improvements and services, so it goes into greater detail and defines the services that are being provided. The third section is the estimate of costs, and it includes budget sheets, and these numbers are the same numbers that were presented in yesterday's budget documents. And then most importantly is a fee schedule. Now, when a CSA goes through a Prop 218 election, they pass a maximum fee. It's a maximum fee that can be collected on an annual basis. But within the Proposition 218 laws, it allows for an annual increase for the first 5 years. And so that increase is based on the U.S. Labor Department Consumer Price Index for the San Francisco, Oakland, and San Jose area. So this year, or the previous year ending 2012, that CPI is 2.2%. So all the fees are being increased by a maximum of 2.2%. Just a quick overview. 4 of the CSAs, 13 of the CSAs, they're in year 4 of their CPI increase. 3 are in year 5 of their CPI increase, so they will not be increased anymore. And then there's 1 that's in year 3. One that's in year 3 of their CPI increase. So once that 5-year mark, that we hit that 5-year mark, if we do need to collect additional fees, then what we'll have to do is go back and do another Prop 218 election. So, but at this point, the fees are they're healthy fees, and I foresee us being able to meet the annual expenses with those fees. So unless.
Okay. Any questions? Supervisor Barrios?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Lynette, will you be sending out notices for the CPI-related increase? Or do they already, I mean, I know that they get notices all the time, but will they get a notice specifically for CPI?
They're aware that the CPI, the representatives from the CSAs, it's something that they are notified, and when we talk about annual budgets with those property owners that are involved in their CSA, they're aware of that CPI increase. It was part of the Prop 218 election as well, and it's included in these fee reports. One thing I wanted to point out, that even though there's a maximum, it doesn't always mean that we collect that maximum every year. So what we do is we review their expenses for their operations, and then we look at how much we would like to collect to put into their reserve accounts, and then that's what we base our budget on. We don't automatically say, well, we can collect $500 from you, whether we need it or not. So in a lot of instances, we're not collecting that full amount. We only collect what we feel we need for that year.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Any other questions from the board? I'll open up the public hearing. Any questions, comments from the public? I'll close the public hearing and bring it back to the board for, I guess, adoption of the resolution.
Mr. Chair, I'll move to adopt resolution number
2013-48.
2013-48, imposing a property-related fee in the CSAs number 16, 21, 22, 23, 24, 28, 31, 34, 35, 42, 46, 47, 48, 50, 51, 53, and 54, confirming the fee report, fee schedule, and fee providing for the levy of the fiscal year 2013-14 property-related fees and making certain related findings.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none. Move on to our regular agenda. Item 18 on the Animal Control Services. CAO.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, we have Margie Riopel here to present to you the City of Hollister contract and requesting your approval. So, Margie.
Good morning. This contract that's before you today is a renewal of a contract that we previously had with the City of Hollister. We made several provisions and changes to this contract. The contract is for 3 years, from July 1, 2013 till June 30th, 2016. The contract is based on 55% on the actual costs and some provisions to reduce specific expenses or services and to add new revenues in order to reduce the cost. The changes to this contract, I'm going to go through and point some of those things out. Some of the provisions to reduce expense or increase revenues are found on Attachment A, Scope of Services. The contract scope of services outlines the services that are to be rendered by the City of Hollister, and then some services that are to be rendered by the County of San Benito. They administer the animal control services and sheltering of animals. They continue to enforce and adhere to all applicable laws and regulations of the state to the state or the County of San Benito in relation to animal control. So that means health and safety laws requiring rabies, quarantine of animals, and dangerous animals. And continue to issue licenses on our behalf and collect those fines. They will continue to track expenditures and audit the county share of the expenditures, lest any revenues collected. They will issue, new to this scope of services, they will be issuing criminal citations. They will also be issuing administrative citations under their delegation of authorization. They will continue to provide quarterly status reports that include the recap of the services provided to the county. The services provided by the county, we continue to provide legal counsel for cases that go before the Superior Court. We are mandated by law to retain a county veterinarian, and we have done that to assist animal control. We also direct our county public health officer and designated staff to assist whenever there's any dangerous dog, biting dogs, or potential rabies cases. In this contract, we are requesting that San Benito County Sheriff's Office assist if requested by Animal Control Services for an incident that would an incident that would be severe, requiring a sworn officer. We also are requesting that the Sheriff's Office respond to when necessary to assist in investigations regarding animal complaints, code violations, and animal cruelty cases. These are high cases. So in other words, this contract does not provide law enforcement services for the county in major cruelty cases or major incidents. Additional services not covered by this agreement are livestock hauling. Those responsible parties will be charged for those services. Costs will be borne by the owner. If there's no responsible party and it's identified to be in our jurisdiction, the county will bear those costs separately. If there are large dead animals that need to be removed from the roadways and they're a danger, they will pick up those animals. However, anything that is considered not to pose a health and safety issue, the county will be responsible for those jurisdictions on the property owners or responsible party. They will also not be involved in major, they will be involved in major cruelty cases or major incidents. However, those will come at a cost. You may recall we had the rooster incidents and we had the puppy mills. Those were big, high expense costs, and they want to ensure that we are the ones paying for those costs if they incur in the county. This contract does not address wildlife services because we do not have wildlife services. So the services previously rendered by that wildlife service are no longer available. Currently, when someone calls for those types of services, 911 is directing them to outside vendors for the person requesting the service. Right now, that's all we have in place, and that's how we are attending to these matters currently. On the payment side of this, the total expense, wait a second here. The proposed annual budget is what we use for a base, but the actual expenses are what we're actually going to be paying for. So it's 55% of the actual expenses, less costs for 911 communications, infrastructure radio, vehicle replacement, and fixed assets. Then any monies that are collected for the county on our behalf are taken off those quarterly invoices to the county, and those are billed to us or invoiced to us. The costs that are anticipated for this year are $230,000. Those are our proposed costs that we believe that we'll have to pay, and those are the costs for this year. Now, remember that each year it could change, because it'll be based on actual costs. And each year, the city will be coming to us in April of each year to propose what that budget's going to look like, and there'll be discussion about those costs. This is an effort to keep the costs down at your request. When you wanted us to drop this contract down, these are the only provisions that we could come up with and agree with. So it's a lesser contract to meet our obligations that are necessary for us to meet, and anything over and above will be charged to the individual parties, or the county will bear the cost if there's no responsible party. So that's the terms of the contract. And it was difficult to get here to this contract, but I feel there are many provisions in this contract to keep the cost down. If in the third quarter their expenses are raising higher than what's proposed, they're required to let us know ahead of time so that we can talk about how we're going to bring that budget down again. Similar to what we kind of did this year. Kept costs down by monitoring expenses made. So it's going to take a lot of monitoring of the budget and the contract. Someone to actually oversee it and make sure they're meeting their obligations and we're meeting ours. It's not a whole lot of highlight, but I think that, a whole lot of pluses, but there are some pluses in that we are trying to conserve the amount of money that we're expending here.
Margie?
The other thing is, last night they went to their council to approve this contract. Was it approved? Supervisor Dela Cruz, do you remember?
Shoot.
Because your comment this morning took me a little bit back a little.
I was focused on the police, the sheriff.
Okay. So I'm assuming that was approved last night.
I have a question. Is the contract total, the annual total, less than what it has been in the previous contract period?
It's based on actual expenditures.
It's based on actual expenditures.
Less some expenses that have been currently in their budget,
Yeah.
like 911 expenses.
When I was going through this, and it's based on the actual 55% of the city's expenditures. So we're paying the majority of the animal control expenditures and for the city. Is that how 55% is?
Well, they have a lot of expense that's not in this contract. And they will argue. They have a building. We help to maintain that building in the way of utilities and such and those types of things. But they carry all the burden on the capital expenses. So they bear all the expense on the vehicles and any equipment they need to buy. So if those were put back in here, it could raise it because things are going to break.
What makes me feel a little bit better is about the revenue. Where get the revenue for the unincorporated area. I don't think we were getting that before.
Well, we've been monitoring that a little more carefully over the last couple of years because that was my concern. Was our licensing fees were way down, our penalties for impoundments were way down, and I pointed that out to them that we needed to make sure that we had better tracking of that. I spoke with the animal control officer. She informed me that at time of the service, they make that, they actually code it differently, and when they take the money, they code it differently for city and county, and it's based on the address or the person coming in. There are other means to check that now. We have the GIS where they actually can verify which jurisdiction it's in and not just use a regular map. So that's a plus. We are also looking at a digitized solution so that county residents could pay online. We're looking at it for code enforcement right now, and that would be our intent, would be to implement that right at the start of that whole thing, so that people could actually pay online or could access it if they wanted to for some fees and fines. Yeah, some are collected there, and some we will be collecting here, so, with the new citation piece, so.
Well, it's better than what's been in the past, that's for sure.
Yeah, it is better, it is better. And I think there are some provisions and pointing out what really is the responsibility of animal control, what we want to cover, not go over and beyond what we actually need to cover. We need to provide animal control, safety, rabies, quarantines of dangerous animals that are, that are our obligation under a health and safety code. We don't need to go over and beyond it. I'm not sure that any of that was happening, but there are a lot of animal advocates, I want to say, that want to make sure that this animal or that animal's taken care of, and I think some of that was going on too. So I think this is cleaner because it actually is specified.
The only thing that concerns me a little bit, and based on an incident that happened just recently, the confiscation of a large number of animals in the unincorporated area, and probably that converts into a large cost to the county.
Right.
And before that happens, I think somebody needs to be notified in the county and given the okay and direction back to animal control what to do. For instance, with those roosters out in I don't know where they were.
I'm not claiming
Ferry Road?
Yeah, Shore Road or wherever, and they confiscated the roosters, and I don't understand why they just don't call the veterinarian and put them down on the spot. And but that would have saved some money probably. But
yeah, I think
something like that should be notified to the CAO's office and given the okay before we incur those type of costs.
Well, I'm not sure that the sheriff's office was even involved.
Actually, I was going to raise that, Mr. Chair.
And that's the key to this. In those incidents that have been occurring now, I believe that the City of Hollister and their law enforcement have been responding to this incident, when in fact it's a law enforcement issue. And so law enforcement needs to be involved, and our law enforcement needs to be involved in that incident, not necessarily theirs. We're paying for animal control services. So that's why we address those issues of services not rendered. They too are incurring that cost currently because they're having to bring in officers at higher, maybe overtime or whatever, when there might be some way to share those resources when it's necessary for law enforcement to respond to those incidents and be our advocate. We need to act smarter in those situations. And maybe you're right, maybe they should have been put down. I don't know all the laws that that are out there for animals and safety of animals. That would be a domestic animal, I would think, but I'm, I don't know those laws. But yeah, I think our county needs to be more involved with those kinds of things. We need to be informed, I agree. And maybe I can ask them to, that's a provision that we would have for this.
Yeah, I think so, just at least at the administration level. Supervisor Deborah Cruz?
Thank you, and I think you kind of hit it where I was trying to go, Mr. Chair, is at the administrative level, we definitely don't want someone who has a blank check to do whatever they feel they want to do. Right. I mean, we had members of the National Park come before the Board of Supervisors, or even in other committees, saying that we don't support the highway, renaming the highway National Pinnacles. And I asked the question: are you here as an employee of National Park, or are you here as an employee, or are you here as a citizen of this community? I want to make sure that at the animal control, it's not something where they interpret the law, they defined it, and they just call everyone to come in and pick up whatever they want to do, whatever activities do, knowing that the county's also responsible for 55% of those activities.
Right.
And I just feel that our
we need to
sheriff
be more
department should have been put in the loop too and say, well, maybe we should go in this direction, go in that direction. Because we have a tendency of the animal control just, running the game and doing what they want.
Well, I think maybe our contract wasn't as specific as it should have been, and I hope that we have addressed all those concerns here. And so,
Supervisor Munzer.
Margie, I just want to thank you for the work you have done on this. It's a difficult contract to work on, I understand that. And it's probably coming to us at a most inopportune time.
right.
The one question I do have, I still don't understand what 55% of the actual cost means.
Okay.
Is that 55% of the cost incurred out in the unincorporated area?
No.
Or is that 55% of the cost of their full budget?
Okay, so they propose a full budget. In the current, I just wanted to mention one more thing. In the current contract that we have, they provide a proposed budget. We add 3% to that for admin right now, and then we do the 55% less any revenues. In the new contract, it's the proposed budget less some expenses, less the 911 communication, the infrastructure radio piece that are now separate and outside that contract. So the city adds those costs into those budgets so that they can pay for their costs, but we're not subject to those costs. So those are off the top. And then the 55% is adhered to for actual expenditures for each quarter.
So that's what you mean by actual costs.
Right.
It's not, you're eliminating all these other add-on costs that used
Right.
to be in the contract. Gotcha.
Right. And the other provision is the expense does not include the fixed assets and the other things, the replacement of the vehicles. So tried to cut those costs out of it so that the expense should be less.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Margie.
Any other questions for Margie from the board? Supervisor Barrios?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I too didn't like the 55% because it really is, there's really no cap. But the idea, and thank you for all the work that was done. I know this was an easy one to negotiate. But I don't like the fact that it is open-ended, so to speak. But because they're going to give you quarterly reports, then I'm a little more comfortable knowing that we will know all along. That doesn't mean we're not going to be liable.
Right.
If it's incurred, and we're going to owe it, but at least we can know ahead of time and maybe decide to go in a different direction at some point. So the part that I was a little taken aback on was 75%. It says by the third quarter, if expenditures incurred by the city begin to exceed percentage levels of 75%, but 75% of what?
The city's proposed budget. It's all based on the budget.
Which is the 230,000 that you spoke of
No,
earlier?
230 is our expense.
Okay, so then the 75% of their full budget, if it looks, because we're trying to stay with 55% of that, of their proposed budget, so if they start exceeding.
Right, if they
we'll
start
know.
exceeding, we'll know ahead of time, so that we can explore why it's going up. I actually like what Supervisor Patella said about we should be notified, or was it Supervisor Dela Cruz? We should be notified when there's anything major going on ahead of time, before the expense is incurred, so that we have some input maybe. But
Okay, well, that's good. I think that is a great idea, and we should do it as a side note, just notify them and, kind of an agreement.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be necessarily stated in here, but what I would like to see is that we add, city begin to exceed percentage levels of 75%, and just add another sentence in there or another section that says 75% of their proposed budget. Because that's, I really don't, know what it is until I asked. And it should be in writing. Or is
Okay.
it too late to go back because
they've
they've
al-
already approved
if
it?
they've already signed it, I could make reference to that line to make sure that that is in a, that was the intent of the
Yeah, and
language.
maybe you could just get a letter that says that is the intent.
Okay.
So this way we can have it on record. Okay? Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. At this point, I'll open it up for public comment.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, I'm Marty Richard from Hollister. I'm following up on some comments I made on this issue to the city, so this is not a new item for me. One of the things they talked about was generating revenue to pay for these expenses. Of course, the key one is enforcement. So if we don't do the enforcement, we won't have that revenue, that upfront revenue on people who do. The other one idea I had, and this should go for the county as well as the city, is I think you ought to try to work, if you have any veterinarians in the county, you have a practice there. I think you ought to try and work with the vets to put in something where people can donate on the spot to your animal safety animal shelter program. The reason is people who care about their animals, who are willing to take them in to the veterinarian when they need care or when they're injured to be, and I know, I've seen people at the veterinarian spend several $100s on a stray animal who got hit in the street. They don't even know who the owner is. These are very generous people, and they really feel they really are very connected to the animal world. And if they had an on-the-spot place when they pay the bill, somebody, you know, they have a place where he says, would you care to make a $5 donation to the thing? I think you'll be surprised. I think you're going to generate a significant amount of funds there. And other things to gain revenue, whether they're tours of the animal shelter, requests for people. The volunteers, I wouldn't ask them because they're already volunteering. They're putting in a lot of time, putting in a lot of effort. But I'm talking about the public in general. And I can't overstress enforcement. I did the same at the city. I'm not just picking on the county. It's all about enforcement because 90% of your problem comes from 10% of the people who do not do their due diligence, not only with licenses, but they don't take care of their pets. When they're going to move or leave the town, they just put them out. And I think you ought to have your code enforcement people. As far as the guy with the roosters, according to the news reports, I can't attest to the truth of this, so it's alleged. It is alleged this is the second time they raided that property, and the previous time there was 100 roosters or thereabouts, and now we're in the second time. So since it's the second time, I'm not trying to defend anybody, but one would think that our law enforcement personnel at the county level, if it's in the county, and our code enforcement people would know what's going on that property, as well as the code enforcement people and the police at the city. I mean, second time. And, you know, for people who do that, who continue to do that, we should look at forfeiture of the property, if that's within the realm of our legal options. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else from public? Come on to the stand, please. Thank you.
Okay, I'm Victoria Montoya, and I agree with el señor, ya se me olvidó. Anyway, forget it. The thing is, I too am very interested in what he said because there is a way of helping the animal shelter. I would be one of them because I've taken strayed animals, and I'm always looking for a cheaper way to get that animal fixed. And when I was referred once, I was sent to Morgan Hill. Even though I did like Morgan Hill, I would prefer it here. I did pay more when I went here. But if we had a veterinarian that we could go to when we find a stray animal, that, you know, I too would be willing to spend $50, but not $100. So if that was out in the county so people can say, hey, if you find a dog that's lost out there, take them to this place. My daughter lost her dog, and luckily somebody found it right away, but this county was closed for a weekend, and there was no way I could get anywhere. Anyway, so to have a reference or number that we can just call, like 411, then it would be helpful, like in the community where I live. I did not know we had a veterinarian, a county veterinarian. I would like to know who it is, so I could go there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair?
Supervisor Munzer?
We're trying to develop a 211, which you'll be able to call and find out that kind of information.
And Mr. Chair, may I make a recommendation, a suggestion that maybe if Margie, if maybe they could put up a little sign for some of the nonprofit, like Pet Friends, that a number, if they're not available, that they could call as an alternate. Margie, do they have good relationship with the nonprofits?
I believe they do have good relations, and they do rabies clinics and that kind of, not rabies clinics, but altering clinics and stuff with them. However, I don't know exactly what they do, so I need to talk with Animal Control
Yeah, and
to
if
make
she
sure.
could just talk to them and
Yeah.
just say, why don't you post some of the nonprofit animal shelters or animal care? And if they can do that, somebody takes an animal, they won't just leave it there, they'll take it someplace secure.
Yeah.
So-
I'm wondering, too, about her request for services on the weekends, that that may be what they have to offer to go to Morgan Hill. But if it was something dangerous, I'm sure it would go through a different avenue.
Yes.
And also there is a website that offers some information. The Hollister City Animal Control website offers information about animals and where to get information to, if you have a stray animal, et cetera. So I think there might be more information available.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm not sure if there's anybody else in the public would like to speak on this matter. If not, I'll bring it back to the board for further discussion or direction or approval of the contract. Let's see. There's no further discussion. I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion, Mr. Chair, that we approve and authorize the chair to sign a contract with the City of Hollister for animal control services based on 55% of actual costs, with provisions to reduce specific expense or services, less revenues collected for the County of San Benito with a term of July 1st, 2013 through June 30th, 2016.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, hearing none. We'll move on to the next item regarding the California Health Care Options Program for managed care. Mrs. Sadeo.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, we have Maria Corona here. She's our interim Health and Human Services Director. She's going to be providing a presentation regarding the California Health Care Options Program, as well as requesting authorization for her to sign an agreement. Maria?
Good morning, everyone. I'm pleased to inform the board and members of the public that we have Maximus here, who Department of Health Care Services has contracted with to operate the California Health Care Options Program, in other words, known as Managed Care in San Benito County. They will be providing outreach and education assistance and enrollment services to our Medi-Cal recipients in our county. The process is going to start effective July 1st. We anticipate to hopefully have someone from Maximus working at the Health and Human Services agencies to start the enrollment process and the outreach and education for our recipients. And that's why I also brought before you a request to approve the agreement between us and Maximus. After I had submitted the agenda transmittal item, I found out that Anthem Blue Cross was able to come, so they're also here as well, and they will also be talking to the board regarding what their role will be in San Benito County as our managed care provider. At this time, I would like to introduce Lily Sahadini? Sahadani. And Carlos Garcia from Healthcare Options. And then we also have Jesus Sanchez and Sean Eita from Anthem Blue Cross.
Great. Welcome.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Thank you so much for giving us the opportunity to come here and provide a little information regarding our program. And my colleague, Carlos Garcia, would do a short, brief presentation regarding what is healthcare option and how we can help when we come to this.
Thank you.
Good morning. To allow Blue Cross the presentation, I'm going to focus on specific slides here on the presentation. If you have your handout, I'll go ahead and point those out. If you could please look at slide number 5 with me. I will go ahead and explain give you an overview of who Healthcare Options is. Healthcare Options Program is a state-funded Medi-Cal managed care education and enrollment program, a program supervised by DHCS, the Department of Health Care Services, and it's a program administered by Maximus. Okay, Maximus is the California enrollment contractor, and the program, of course, is called Healthcare Options. Okay, if you could go to the next slide here, number 6. Currently, Healthcare Options, we are servicing 15 different counties throughout the state of California. We're in 97 sites. So we are co-located with county offices, hospitals, or clinics throughout the state. And you see a list here of the current cities or counties that we are working with. Okay, slide number 7. As of, in September 1st, Healthcare Options will expand to 20 additional counties from the ones that I just mentioned. And July 1st, we will be in these new counties to assist in the questions and the feedback that beneficiaries or Medicare applicants will have with this change. If you see the list here, we will expand to these counties. Of course, San Benito being one of the counties we're expanding to. Okay, next slide, number 8. And the Field Operations Department, this is the department that we're representing, Lily and myself. We have enrollment service representatives, also known as ESRs. We provide education, enrollment, and customer service assistance to Medi-Cal applicants. Okay, the ESRs will provide a one-on-one and group presentations to the Medi-Cal applicants that will have questions on how to enroll and general questions about managed care. Okay, like I mentioned before, our enrollment service representatives are located in county social service sites, clinics, hospitals, and health centers, also with community-based organizations. Okay. Another aspect of Healthcare Options, or another resource that we have, is our 1-800 number, or call center. Our call center will also assist the beneficiaries in the expansion to enroll and answer questions regarding enrollment and general questions about managed care. Our 1-800 number, or HCO call center, offers a toll-free language line. We currently offer 13 threshold languages, and we are open from Monday to Friday from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. We also have a mail house department, which also assists in the enrollment or in the sorting out of the choice forms that cover the 13 different languages. We also provide, if needed, we provide alternative format information in Braille or audio. Okay. And we want to make sure that, of course, that all the information that we provide to the Medi-Cal, existing Medi-Cal beneficiaries and oncoming Medi-Cal beneficiaries receive the friendly format information and friendly information from Healthcare Options. Okay, thank you very much.
Representatives from Healthcare Options.
Supervisor Barrios.
Thank you. I'd like to, well, it sounds like they're going to be housed at Health and Human Services,
Yes,
so it'll
that's
be
the plan.
easy access to the customers. For how long will you be available to us? Is this ongoing as long as we're under this managed care program?
Correct, it'll be ongoing.
Okay.
And from what we know, we will be at the site Monday through Friday.
Really? For how many hours a day are you there?
Full-time.
My understanding is that we will get one person full-time, so 40 hours a week.
Wow, this is wonderful. So this is really, you will not be, what you'll be doing is actually educating the consumers, the customers, as to what is available, how to maybe process applications, forms, whatever their needs are, okay?
That's correct.
This is a really great opportunity.
Yes, it will be an enrollment into the actual managed care program.
Okay.
We will be still doing business as usual in terms of the eligibility component
Right.
to determine whether or not the family is eligible. And then once that's determined and they are eligible, then they're referred to healthcare options to enroll into the managed care program.
Into the managed care.
Yes.
Now, what will be your association with Anthem Blue Cross, who will be the insurance company, correct?
Yes.
How will you interact with them in any way? Will you meet with them? Because Supervisor De La Cruz and I have been assigned the task of trying to put together an advisory committee that will be made up of San Benito County stakeholders, physicians, clinics, hospital, and all that. And I see you as one of our partners, so we would like to meet with you either by phone or in person. Supervisor De La Cruz, I hope I'm not speaking out of line here because I know we have to do this. We need to do this together. But yes, if we could do that, that would open a lot of doors for us to move forward. And then if Blue Cross is in the house, then we'll invite them as well.
Yes, and they're in the house.
Yeah, I couldn't see them, but now I see you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. We would welcome that.
Okay.
Supervisor De La Cruz.
Wow, Supervisor Barrios, thank you. Very, very intelligent questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't know if that's the right time to ask for. Maybe I could actually wait, but let me just add a little to it.
Could you speak louder, please?
Yeah, I don't know if this is the right time to ask the questions, knowing that we're going to be taking Supervisor Barrios' lead on this and create committee and think of all these great ideas. However, Blue Cross is the one that's going to determine who's going to be on the list, right, on the provider
Who's going
list.
to be what again?
On the provider list, who's going to provide the services?
Yeah, they're going to be, my understanding is that they will be providing a network provider listing, correct? You guys are going to have and he's here. Why don't we
Okay,
just...
let me ask that question to the gentleman.
Should I give a brief presentation? No?
Right.
Okay. Okay. So, thank you, actually. My name is actually Sean Atha. I actually am the Northern California Director for the operations for the Medicaid programs. So in regards to California, how we're structured, there's basically 3 different regions. I'm actually in charge of the coastal and Northern California area. So in regards to healthcare options fundamentally is one of our partners up and down the state. And so given just based on time and respect of your time, what does this really mean? What's our role? What's their role? And how does this sort of work? It's that my background previous to being with Blue Cross, I actually worked for the state of California for 13 years. I actually did the regulatory side, and now I'm on the health plan side. In many cases, it's actually very seamless because the individuals involved very much so are focused on working with underserved populations and getting them into adequate and very high quality healthcare services that they can find throughout the community. So in terms of where we're going, what I've done is you actually have a full presentation and packet that we've already given you as a handout. You can take your time and look at that. As far as for Anthem Blue Cross, what our role is as of right now, we quite literally are the largest Medicaid-related health plan in the United States. We have the resources of networks of being one. We've been the largest Medi-Cal managed care contractor throughout the state of California. We have networks of doctors, specialists, hospitals, clinics up and down the state in every county. We've been in every county. We've served healthy families. We've served the CMSP, the County Medical Indigence Population, in this county for years. And so in regards to, working with Medi-Cal, what we will be doing now in sort of the role of healthcare options is healthcare options, they serve the role of actually helping really enroll people, pulling people in and connecting people to the Medi-Cal services program pretty much almost as a safeguard for the community, such that you don't have necessarily a health plan going door to door trying to say, hey, come into our plan. That's really the job of healthcare options. Healthcare options then captures those members into the process, into the program, and then it helps enroll them into our health plan. And so for our health plan, these are individuals will be Anthem Blue Cross members that'll have full access to the Anthem Blue Cross network. And so the Anthem Blue Cross network is a full range of clinics and primary care physicians, specialists, and hospitals. To the extent that we are existing in rural areas, some cases counties more rural than this, we do have very strong telemedicine programs where we've brought in special telemedicine devices to access specialists all over the state, and even we have operations throughout the country where we've some of the finest medical centers we can access anywhere through the telemedicine program. And so really as part of the development, we will be actually we have staff actually in Santa Clara County. As far as what we're looking at now is saying how can we expand our Santa Clara County program to really bring in some local staff, local support to really develop the program further into San Benito County. And so in regards to really what we do is we hope to be one, we're a partner with the state, but we're a partner with the counties in which we serve. And so we're looking to have, to the extent you're saying that there's an advisory board, we actually fundamentally have to have an advisory board. So to the extent we're looking at how's this working within the county, we actually need to have an advisory body simply to the extent that we're listening to the community. There's members of the populations we serve and the leaders of the communities we serve have an active hand in touching this population and actually advising us, how can we better serve? Are there barriers to access and stuff in the community? So that's for the most part. What I'd see our role is just making sure that we're getting access. Is that if someone's having difficulty accessing any type of care, there's people that you can call directly, even my staff, say, hey, what's the problem? We need to make sure there's access here. We provide transportation. So on a regular basis, if someone needs even the highest level of care, we might be transporting someone to, say, UC San Francisco Medical Center or over into community hospitals with Fresno or some other local facility if it can't be managed locally. But it's just simply this is that's the resources that we help bring into the community, into the county, and to hopefully that we're really a good community partner and working together. And so I think that's the key thing. A lot of people have our commercial side. You might have HMO, PPO, even to the extent that we're a large company. Our body or our part of the organization solely serves Medicaid. But if we have challenges of meeting the needs in one particular area, we do have the HMO, the PPO, these full networks that we can say, hey, we need to do a one-time contract for this case or that case. And again, we have greater broad depth of resources to bring into the community. And so really it's Healthcare Options is our partner. So to that end, I'll leave the materials that I handed out to you for you to look at your time. My card's there. Make myself available to, if you need to talk to me, I've got greater experts in every other area. If you're concerned about one thing or the other, we can bring those folks in as well. Further, I appreciate the fact we've been invited to come back next month to really do a meet and greet and help maybe educate some of the local individuals as to how really to best work with the health plan and how to better access all of our resources for the benefit of San Benito County. Any questions?
Thank you. Any questions from the board members, Supervisor Barrios?
Just a comment. This is music to my ears, really, because just the fact that you're here and with Maximus and you are already partners is going to make our job a lot easier. And I feel very good about knowing that I think you're really trying to provide the best service for our community. So for that meeting that you're having in a month, we'd like to be a part of it, Supervisor De La Cruz and I, and maybe we'll talk.
Okay.
I've got your card, so we'll get together and figure out how we're going to bring the advisory committee. When you spoke of your advisory committee, are you talking about what we have in mind?
Quite honestly, I didn't know about what you were playing, but the way you just described it is perfect.
Okay,
so
perfect.
It
then.
is.
We'll move forward.
Okay.
We'll be in touch.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Maria, to you as well. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
You're welcome. Any other questions?
No. I just want to also mention that the state has sent me some information saying that they are planning to have a stakeholders meeting so that we could invite everyone. I did mention both Supervisor De La Cruz's name and Supervisor Mario's name to them, and as soon as I have that information, I will forward it to both of you and, of course, our medical providers and the organizations within the community.
Okay.
Thank you very much. We're moving forward, and
Yes.
hopefully we'll be ready to kick this off by September 1st. Thank
I'll
you.
accept public comment right now. You want to come to a podium?
My name is Chuck Walters. I live in District 4. This is a very interesting topic, and I just was curious how this program relates to the existing programs in the county. I mean, we have San Benito Health Foundation, we have the Maybe clinics and so forth, and they can also take Medi-Cal patients and so. So how does it dovetail in with those other facilities or capabilities that the county already has? I mean, that that exist here. That's
What we'll do is after a public comment, we'll answer that question. It might be a good question to answer at the podium for the benefit of the public. Anybody else would like to comment or have a question? Please come to the podium, please.
Okay, my name is Victoria, and I'm also interested in this community managed care because I just went back to being a board of the San Benito Health Foundation, and so I would also like to have some part in that, or find someone from the clinic to be involved in this, because I think they have a lot to be involved with. So that's it. I'm just making sure that I get some information.
And Mr. Chair, if I could, we plan to include all the providers, including the San Benito Health Foundation, as one of our partners in the advisory committee if they choose to join us, and I really hope and I think they will. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Barrios. Anyone else from the public? Okay, I'll close the public comment. Maria, can you answer the gentleman's question?
The clinics mentioned are healthcare providers within the community. The Medi-Cal program is a program that's state-funded and federally funded as well, and that is the program that pays for the medical services provided at these clinics. And until recently, effective September 1st, we are going to become a managed care community. Currently, we are a fee-for-service community where a person goes to the Health Foundation, for instance, or the Maybe Clinic, and they show their Medi-Cal card, just like an insurance card, and then they get their medical services, and Medi-Cal pays for their medical visit. Effective September 1st is not going to be a fee-for-service anymore. It's going to be part of a managed care. And my expectation is that all these clinics mentioned by the gentleman will be part of the provider, the network providers that will be available to the members of our community. With regards to the lady's comment, and Marge, I think you answered it. I just want to reassure you that we will be including the San Benito Health Foundation as part of the stakeholders meeting. They were part of our stakeholders meeting, and they had input throughout, our managed care meetings, and they will continue to do so. I suggest that if anybody that's here would like to give me their name and number or email, I'd be more than happy to include you in my email distribution to advise you as to when and where we will be having stakeholder meetings.
Just to add, the providers that you just brought up, they're actually, as right now, the core part of our network. So we've already been working with them. Yes.
Okay. That's good points.
Very good.
Okay, thank you. All right. With that, we'll bring it back to the board for, I guess, approval for the space use agreement and the agreement with Maximus and Blue Cross. All right.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion we approve the space use agreement with Maximus to provide healthcare education enrollment service for the managed care beneficial, and 2, authorize interim director of San Benito County HNHAS to sign agreement.
I second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, hearing none. Thank you very much for coming and explaining the program.
Thank you.
I'm sure we'll have the opportunity again very shortly.
Thank you.
Move on to item 20.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, this is our last regular agenda item. We have Integrated Waste Chair Mandy Rose. She's going to be discussing with your board the reviewing of the subcommittee recommendation and requesting you to direct staff as appropriate. So we have Mandy here.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board.
As the board's aware, a subcommittee was appointed to review the COLA documentation presented by our landfill operator, Waste Connections. So before you today is the recommendation of the subcommittee. Included in your packet, actually on the EIT, are the considerations that the subcommittee went through. They were trying to determine if we would raise rates to cover the amount of the COLA. Would we take some of this money from our landfill reserves, or will we do some kind of hybrid approach where we're raising rates and take some of the money from reserves? The subcommittee recommendation, obviously Supervisors Botello and Barrios can speak to this, was to move ahead with raising some rates and take the balance from reserves. In your agenda packet, you have a background paper. I wanted to make sure the full board was aware of what the subcommittee last year reviewed. That was a subcommittee of Supervisors Munzer and De La Cruz. At that time, they were looking at a 2-year COLA because Waste Connections had failed to submit the documentation timely to us. And there was a review by both Waste Connections Corporate Counsel and our County Counsel's Office. Unfortunately, our agreement didn't say you couldn't submit after the date, although it didn't say you could. And the subcommittee with the facts at that time, again, the subcommittee of Munzers and De La Cruz, decided to basically do the Solomon approach and split the baby and granted a 1.25 increase. It was a little bit less than half. Subsequent to that, this year when the new subcommittee met, we were informed by Waste Connections that they had made an accounting error in telling us the balance in our rate stabilization fund. So the amount of money that the board is currently looking at meeting for the COLA is again a 2-year COLA, and it is more than we anticipated because the rate stabilization fund was less than we had realized. So I just want to make sure the board is aware of that. The details are in the agenda packet. And I'm here to take your questions and comments and get direction on how you would like to proceed.
Okay. Supervisor Barrios, you have anything further to add?
Just to say that we met twice with Mandy, Supervisor Botello, and I, and we understand that even though the rates, looking at them, maybe just a couple, $3, $4, whatever it was at the beginning, we don't feel that the county is at this time prepared to, that our citizens are not prepared to make those great contributions to the addition of the fees. So because the landfill does have reserves, we decided that it was fair to just split it and that we take half of it from reserves and the other half would be paid by the consumers, our customers.
And that basically is what we are recommending to the board, and I think it's very important for us to kind of, pass on the COLA and rate increases every year going forward from now on as well, and so nobody gets hit real hard or the county gets hit real hard in one period of time or another. So is there any questions or comments from the board? I'll open it up for public comment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Marvin Jones. I have no problem with this cost increase, whether you do the whole thing or half of it. I was just wondering if the county had a fee for franchising on this. If your fee goes up, does your county's take go up any? I know the city has a fee for franchises, and I just wondered if the county had one as well.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. A fee for transactions? Okay. Any other comments from the public on the issue?
Well, surprisingly, I come here, and I haven't been here in a long time, and I don't follow an agenda. So I was very interested in the whole agenda, and here I am asking another question. Is that this increase will be fair and square for everyone and not just for part of the city and part of not the city. I'm always wondering because I always find that there is always something that's not totally out there so we can understand. And so, because I know that the water is expensive, and I don't mind paying the extra $4, but if it's for everybody, I'm willing to go ahead, let's say yes. Other than that, I am just surprised and don't, I want to be fair. I want to hear the right thing so I don't have to get my big bill every month and complain and bitch and say, oh, somebody's not paying their part.
Thank you. Any other comments? No further comments. I'll close the public comment period. And I think the agenda item, if you have a chance to look at it on the computer, I don't know if we have any hard copies, does have the suggested rate increases as far as what type of waste and the breakdown of those costs are as part of our packet. Mandy, you want to comment further with
Sure.
Um,
some of the other questions?
We certainly could provide a hard copy to anyone who is interested in one. In addition, government code requires that we, first of all, that if the board goes ahead with this action to increase rates, that we set a public hearing, and they're required 2 notices in, a paper of general circulation, so that will be included in the paper. It will be posted up at the landfill, and we can provide it to anyone else who has any interest.
Supervisor Munzer?
I talked to Mandy, I guess last week, and when Supervisor De La Cruz and I were on the subcommittee last year, we were incorrectly told that there was money in the fund, and that's what we based our splitting of the baby last year with the 2011 COLA that was not applied for on a timely manner. And I don't know if I would have made that decision, knowing what I know now. And I just wanted to throw that out to the rest of the board that, we agreed to give them the $50,000
$50,230,
last
yes.
year, half of the COLA. And like I said, I'm not quite sure I would have made that decision last year if I had been told that the funds weren't available. And anyway, throwing that out.
Any other comments from the board?
Just one other comment, that if you look at the schedule that we looked at it and recommend, not everything is going to be increased, but just as an example, ag plastic will go up from $26 to $28. And I think had we done it where they would have to pay all of it, that amount would be probably $4 or $5. So it's a green waste, for instance, $26 is going up from 26 to 28. So it depends on what you're taking to the landfill on whether you're going to have to pay an additional amount or not. But we try to keep it down as much as we could by splitting it and taking part of it from reserves.
If I may, Mr. Chair, another comment and tagging on to what Supervisor Barrios raised is that our rates are incentive-based. The 2 items that Supervisor Barrios just raised are where individuals bring up source-separated material. So you're basically paying just about half if you source-separate your material. So individuals still have the ability to control their costs if they do source-separate and bring the materials up to the landfill.
Thank you, Mandy, for that. That is a very important part of it because you can help reduce your own fee by doing that.
Okay. There's no further comments. I'll entertain a motion.
I will make a motion, Mr. Chair, that we approve the rate increases as proposed to achieve the projected $131,213 and set public hearing and approve payment to WCI in the amount of $142,000 from the landfill reserves.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none. We have a closed session. Shall we, County Council?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The Board of Supervisors will now adjourn in a closed session to discuss agenda items number 21 and 22 on today's agenda. Agenda item number 21 is to consider the discipline/dismissal/release Matter of a public employee, authority for that is found in California Government Code Section 54957. Agenda item number 22 is to confer with legal counsel regarding existing litigation pursuant to subdivision A and D 1 of Section 54956.9 in the case of Purple Cross et al. Versus the County of San Benito, Superior Court of California, County of San Benito, case number CU 12-00060. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We'll adjourn to closed session. Oh, the budget's be at 1:30. Yes, we'll go back to budget at 1:30.
Chairman, how long do you think that might run?
15 minutes, I hope.
Yeah, 15 minutes, it will.
I think so. But we have a closed session at 1 o'clock, but that's the last half hour, and we'll come out at 1:30 sharp.
If I do not come back, Mr. Chairman.
County Council, would you like to report out?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. The Board of Supervisors met in closed session to discuss agenda items number 21 and 22 on today's agenda. Agenda item number 21 was to consider the discipline/dismissal/release matter of a public employee pursuant to California Government Code Section 54957. At this time, the board took no reportable action. In regards to agenda item number 22, the board met and conferred with legal counsel regarding existing litigation pursuant to subdivisions A and D1 of Section 54956.9. This regarded the case of Purple Cross RX et al. Versus the County of San Benito, filed in the Superior Court of California in the County of San Benito under case number CU 12-00060. The board accepted a settlement agreement signed by the property owner Stan Smith, which requires Mr. Smith to bring an unlawful detainer to evict Purple Cross from the premises located in the County of San Benito, in return for the county foregoing its costs of bringing a nuisance action against Mr. Smith and the property. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And we'll adjourn for lunch and reconvene at 1 o'clock for another closed session.
sides, so it's not as polarized. It gives you an option to explore both sides so that, you can make an educated guess, like you were saying.
Right, right. And another thing that was interesting is, we all get, you see that you have right there your, what's that,
My
your official
general
voter
election.